I want to believe you, honey.
Oh, Daddy, you can. I'm not pregnant, honest. Not even a little bit.
On May 7th, 1999, Dana Plato walked into the Howard Stern show, hoping people would finally believe her story. She was 34, broke, and desperate to clear her name. For 90 minutes, she faced brutal questions about her drug use and fallen career. She tried to stay strong, but her voice kept shaking. At one point, they cut her hair on air for a drug test while she sat frozen. She left that studio thinking she had one more chance. Less than 24 hours later, she was dead. What she said during those final moments reveals everything. Dana Michelle Strain came into the world on November 7, 1964, at Mission Hospital in Huntington Park. Her mother, Linda Strain, was only 16 and already caring for a baby who was just 18 months old. Life was already heavy, and another child was too much to handle. So in June 1965, when Dana was 7 months old, she was placed for adoption. The adoption was finalized by Dean and Florine K. Plato, a couple living in the comfortable neighborhoods of the San Fernando Valley. Dean owned a trucking company that kept the family stable. Dana grew up with security and nice things, but even then, a quiet mystery sat under her childhood. Her biological father, John Frederick Strain, had been only 18 when she was born, and the whole Strain side of her life remained hidden from her. Years later, she would talk about how that missing piece kept a small ache inside her, even while her new home tried to give her everything. But comfort did not last long. By the time she turned 3 in 1967, Dean and Kay divorced, and the house she knew split apart. Dana stayed mostly with Kay, who worked as a secretary, and did her best to keep life bright in the middle of constant moving and growing bills. Kay was creative and gentle, and kept taking Dana to theater shows, as if magic could hold her childhood together. Dana later said in an interview that she grew up inside a plastic bubble. She meant that Kay tried to protect her so much that she never learned how to face the real world. It kept her safe for a while, but it also made her unsure of herself. Still, Kay's love for the arts became a guiding rope that Dana held onto, especially during those years when money was tight and home never felt fixed. Even with all that change, something inside her kept pulling toward performance. When she was just 2, she would copy what she saw on television, imitating voices and gestures the way some kids mimic animals. At 3, Kay put her in dance classes, and Dana took to it fast. The girl moved with ease and watched everything happening around her like she was storing it for later. They went to small theaters and family shows, and Dana soaked up the energy of crowds and bright lights. By 7, she was going to auditions with her mother, walking into rooms filled with cameras and casting people. Within a few years, she had appeared in more than 100 commercials. That kind of early spotlight shaped her before she even realized what being a performer meant. At home, though, the emotional cracks kept growing. After the divorce, her father remarried and started a new family. Dana felt left behind, and the back and forth during visitations left her anxious and confused. She went into therapy at a young age and tried to explain her feelings through drawings. Many of them showed broken families and lonely children. She did not have the words yet, but the pictures revealed how abandoned she felt. Those early wounds stayed with her and followed her into friendships, relationships, and every new place Hollywood took her. Still, she pushed forward. At age 5, she threw herself into figure skating. Local rinks became her haven, and she trained hard, winning ribbons and building the kind of focus she would need later. She idolized skaters like Peggy Fleming and dreamed of joining the Olympic team. By 13, she was talented enough that people around her thought she could go for it. But acting had already taken hold. By then, she was juggling auditions, skating, and school. Her skating grace even helped her land her first commercial at age 7, a baby toy ad where she earned $50. The whole family was thrilled because the check felt like a quiet sign that maybe she really had something special. Her first big step into television came at age 10. She played a small part in The $6 Million Man in an episode that aired on January 13, 1975. More than 23 million people watched that episode. Her scene was brief, a moment on a tennis court, where she comforted a boy whose parents were fighting. But it was enough for casting directors to remember her. Soon after that, she booked a major role in the TV movie Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. She played Wendy, a kidnapped child who keeps hearing her missing mother's voice from the depths of the Bermuda Triangle. Nearly 18 million viewers watched the film. Co-stars talked about how Dana handled intense scenes with a maturity far beyond her age. Her performance stood out, even when the movie itself got mixed reviews. By age 9, she had already filmed more than 100 commercials. She sold everything from KFC to Avon to Arco Gas. For Kentucky Fried Chicken, she delivered the famous line that fans repeated for years. She declared, "That is what I like about Kentucky Fried Chicken," and it made her the friendly face every brand wanted. She could cry on cue. She could smile through hours of repetition. Her agents called her the secret weapon because she could make anyone care in just a few seconds. Sometimes she shot 3 commercials in a single day, and by age 10 she was earning more money than many adults in her neighborhood. Her dedication was relentless. In 1975 alone, she auditioned for dozens of roles. She skipped modeling opportunities because she wanted to be seen as a real actress. She would stand in front of a mirror for hours practicing her lines to fight off stage fright. She pushed herself into every room that mattered, every casting call, every chance. Her effort paid off. By the end of that year, she had acted in 3 major productions, setting the stage for everything that came next. One moment from that year became a quiet legend. She was filming a Crest toothpaste commercial and was supposed to say a line about the shine on her teeth. Instead of sticking to the script, she looked straight at the camera and said she wanted to show everyone her shiny teeth. The whole crew burst out laughing, but the director kept the take. The commercial aired everywhere, and people loved it. Agencies called her the perfect kid sister and kept giving her roles where she played the innocent girl with a bright smile. Dana Plato was only 12 when she stepped into her first real film set in 1977. The movie was called Return to Boggy Creek, and she played Evie Jo, the oldest sister wandering through the Arkansas swamps, where people whispered about a creature named Big Bay Ty. The entire shoot lasted 3 weeks, but the days felt longer because most of the crew were high school kids with barely any experience. That made everything feel messy and loud and unpredictable. Dana earned $1,000 for the role, mostly because she had to scream again and again in scenes that were supposed to feel spooky. The swamp around her was hot and sticky and filled with bugs, and each long night made her more uneasy. Behind the camera, the crew loved to pull jokes, jumping out from behind trees or blasting sudden noises to get reactions. She was so frightened one day that she broke down in tears while co-star Cindy Butler tried to calm her. That moment became a story people whispered about later, and it marked the first time Dana learned how unforgiving Hollywood could be. The film did not impress critics, but the experience pushed her to grow up fast. Soon after that, in 1978, she stepped into a different world with the film California Suite. She was 13 and suddenly acting alongside names like Jane Fonda and Walter Matthau. Dana played Jenny Warren, a 17-year-old dealing with a custody battle between her parents. Most of her scenes were set inside the Beverly Hills Hotel, where her quiet frustration became a soft anchor in the story. Even though she had only a small role, her calm and natural delivery caught attention. Critics noted how genuine she sounded in the emotional phone call scene, and industry people started viewing her as someone who could handle real drama. The film did well, won awards, and lifted her into a bigger circle. It also moved her out of the B-movie shadows she started in and placed her beside actors who shaped Hollywood. But the first time she truly showed her emotional depth came even earlier, when she was only 11. She appeared in a 1976 episode of the show Family called Home Movie. She played Mary Beth Sanders, a girl caught in the middle of her parents' secrets and divorce. Director Leonard Goldberg praised how grounded she was for someone so young. The episode aired in October 1976 and touched topics she understood because her own parents divorced when she was 3. The pain in those scenes felt real because she did not have to imagine it. That performance helped people see her as a young actress who could carry heavier stories than most kids her age. It also opened doors that led straight to the job that defined her life. In 1978, she won the role of Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes at just 14. More than 200 girls auditioned, and she outshined them with a mix of sass and softness that producers felt instantly. She had already been working on commercials and even showed up on The Gong Show before this chance came. At the same time, she had been training in figure skating and had a real shot at the Olympic track, but she chose acting instead. This one decision changed her life completely. The chemistry between Dana, Gary Coleman, and Todd Bridges was immediate. The pilot aired in 1978 and became a hit almost overnight. Fans loved watching Kimberly shift from a bratty rich girl into a caring sister who looked out for Arnold and Willis. Dana became a teen star before she even understood what fame could do to someone. As the show grew, the writers pushed into bigger themes. One of the boldest moments for Dana came in the Season 2 episode, The Bus, in 1981. Kimberly and Willis faced racism tied to school busing, and the story followed Arnold's transfer to an all-white school that brought tension and threats. Dana delivered a passionate speech defending her brothers that viewers still remember. The role earned her a Young Artist Award nomination and even praise from people at the NAACP. She was only 16 and already stepping into topics that most family sitcoms avoided. The episode became one of the most talked about ones in the show's history and gave Dana a powerful spotlight. But behind the cameras, life was heavier than the scripts. Fame came fast and carried its own weight. At 14, she tried marijuana for the first time during a lunch break, encouraged by older crew members who said it helped them relax. The pressure of long days and quick changes made curiosity grow into habit. Todd Bridges later talked about how the two of them would share their fears during shooting breaks. Dana's salary climbed to $22,000 per episode by 1980, which would be about $90,000 today. And she even bought a pony because she wanted something that made her feel normal again. Yet she told Conrad Bain she sometimes felt trapped by the show's family setup because it reminded her too much of her own complicated childhood. The mixture of success and emotional strain began shaping the battles she would face later. Then came the Teacher's Pet episode in 1981. It aired in November and stirred trouble almost immediately. Kimberly was written into a situation where a teacher showed inappropriate interest in her. Viewers argued that the topic was too adult for a show led by children. Parents called networks. Advocacy groups complained. Director Jay Sandrich worked closely with Dana to make sure she understood the emotional tone and felt safe. They even rehearsed privately to avoid overwhelming her. Still, the controversy lasted for weeks, filling talk shows and newspaper debates. For Dana, It was another test of how far she could stretch as an actress and how much public pressure she could handle at such a young age. In 1982, she earned a Young Artist Award nomination for her role in A Step in Time. She showed up to the ceremony in a costume gown that made her stand out among child stars. She mingled with actors like Ricky Schroeder and talked about the strange mix of fame and growing up. But inside, she struggled. Puberty made her body change faster than the industry liked. Fittings became uncomfortable, and she worried that she did not look like the perfect teen star anymore. The nomination was an honor, but it also reminded her how closely people watched her appearance. Those insecurities planted seeds of anxiety that followed her for years. Around that same time, she appeared on The Facts of Life in a crossover episode with a go-kart storyline. It aired in 1981 and pulled in about 25 million viewers. Her comedic scenes were light and fun, but filming for 2 NBC shows at once wore her down. She pushed through exhaustion because she wanted to prove she could balance anything the studio gave her. The episode's success proved her star power stretched beyond different strokes. Still, the non-stop pace chipped away at her energy and health. By that year, another hidden struggle had already begun. In 1982, she started taking prescription pills from the set. Valium and Lortab were the ones she reached for most often. Lortab was a painkiller about 10 times stronger than codeine. She told Janet Jackson during a visit that the pressure to stay perfect made her feel like she could not breathe. Fans wrote letters begging her to keep the image of the sweet girl alive. The pills gave her relief for a moment, but soon turned into dependence. She was only 17 when addiction started shaping her life, and very few people outside the inner circle knew what she was facing. In 1983, she received a TV Land Award nomination for Most Memorable Female Character. On the surface, it looked like she was rising even higher. The NBC party that year celebrated her and the rest of the cast. But backstage, she was fighting for a different future. She wanted the writers to give Kimberly more mature storylines because she felt herself growing up faster than the scripts allowed. Producers resisted because they wanted to keep her wholesome image untouched. Arguments grew, and that tension became a sign of what was coming. Her real-life pregnancy soon clashed with the show's clean-cut image, and the network decided there was no place for her anymore. The award nomination felt bright, but also painful, because it showed how much she had accomplished, while also revealing the limits that surrounded her. Dana Plato was only 19 in late 1983 when she learned she was pregnant with her boyfriend, Lanny Lambert, who was 23 and playing guitar in a small rock band. By December, she had already moved in with him, and in April 1984, they stood together in a tiny Las Vegas chapel, saying vows with only a few friends watching. At first, she thought she could balance motherhood and her role as Kimberly on different strokes, but producers saw it differently. When they found out she was expecting, they decided she no longer matched the clean image they wanted on screen. They did not write the pregnancy into the story. Instead, they quietly sent Kimberly to Paris in the middle of season 6. Fans were confused because no one told them what was really happening. Her last main episode was Green Hair in 1984, and after that, she slipped out of the cast without a proper goodbye. Still, she held on to her excitement, saying in an interview that when she had her baby, she would never feel alone again. She gave birth to her son, Tyler Edward Lambert, on July 6, 1984, in California. She was so young and so overwhelmed that she began breastfeeding on set during her final scenes. She would rush home to care for a newborn, then return to play Kimberly as if nothing had changed. It was exhausting, but she felt proud every time she looked at Tyler. His arrival brought light into her life, yet at the same time, Her career was already shaking under her feet. Once Kimberly left the show, the series carried on without her, and the doors that had opened so easily when she was a teenager suddenly began closing. Her marriage to Lanny had started with hope. They married on April 24, 1984, wearing simple outfits in a plain little chapel. Lanny had some success in music, producing White Lies, Blue Eyes, a song that reached number 86 on the Billboard Hot 100. But the marriage cracked almost right away. He was jealous of her time with co-stars. She struggled with the pressure of being famous while trying to figure out who she was off-screen. Within a year, they separated, and though they were not officially divorced until 1990, the relationship never recovered. When the court granted Lanny full custody of Tyler, Dana felt something inside her collapse. It was another loss she carried for the rest of her life. Even before leaving fully, she appeared in one more major episode during her last season. It was called The Weekend, and it aired in 1985. The story focused on teen drinking, and critics praised it for being bold and honest. But behind the scenes, she was slipping into the same world the episode warned against. Pills and alcohol were already part of her private life. She hid it from everyone, trying to act cheerful even while fighting cravings and fear. After Tyler's birth, she told friends she felt guilty every time she filmed a scene meant to teach kids a lesson she herself could not follow. Then came the crushing silence of postpartum depression. In the mid-1980s, people rarely talked about it, even though so many new mothers suffered. Her doctor prescribed Valium to ease her anxiety, and she relied on it more and more. When different strokes ended in 1986, she lost the built-in family that had held her steady for years. Work became scarce. Bills piled up. The Valium turned into dependency. That dependency turned into arrests. She forged prescriptions. She robbed a video store. She spiraled toward the fate that would one day take her life. Even the ABC revival of Different Strokes in 1985 and 1986 could not save her. She returned only as a guest, and the show itself stumbled through ratings until it ended on January 11, 1986. Producers still saw her as Kimberly and nothing else. They refused to imagine her in deeper roles. She appeared, said her lines, and left. There was no real chance to grow, and the spotlight that once warmed her now felt cold. Her attempt to move into films did not go well either. High School USA came out in October 1983. It had big names, like Michael J. Fox and Anthony Edwards, yet critics called it disappointing and forgettable. Her part was small, and the movie faded before anyone noticed her performance. Hollywood kept offering roles that boxed her into the same narrow type, and she kept slipping deeper into frustration. Still, she tried to rebuild. Between 1987 and 1988, she filmed her role in Night Trap, playing Latent Sims in a strange horror game that used grainy video footage. She was paid $5,000. When the game finally came out in 1992, it shocked politicians and parents. By 1993, it was dragged into Senate hearings about violent content, and it became one of the reasons the ESRB rating system exists today. The scandal added another heavy weight to Dana's already troubled image. Yet she kept fighting for serious roles. In 1989, she starred in Prime Suspect, playing a young woman whose life is torn apart by trauma. Critics said she was brave. They said she had depth. They said they finally saw what she could become if given real material. But the network passed on, turning the movie into a series, saying her past still hung too heavily over their decisions. The film aired on October 1, 1989, and though her work was strong, it could not undo the years of tabloid headlines. Those headlines grew louder in 1989 and 1990. Her divorce was finalized. She lost custody. She struggled with alcohol. On July 12, 1990, She was arrested for DUI after crashing near her home. She paid a fine of $500 and tried to move on, but each misstep added to the picture the public held of her. She felt herself shrinking under the weight of every article, every rumor, every whisper that she had become a tragedy in motion. In 1990, she even tried stand-up comedy. She headed to small clubs, hoping laughter would rescue her. But one night in Las Vegas, the crowd heckled her about different strokes until she walked off the stage, humiliated. Agents cut ties. She was left with fewer options than ever, and loneliness began to feel permanent. Then, things grew darker. On February 28, 1991, she walked into Lake's video store in Las Vegas wearing a hat and sunglasses. She showed a pellet gun and demanded money. She left with $160 and some tapes, but the clerk recognized her immediately and called 911. Police found her minutes later. She was arrested. Wayne Newton unexpectedly paid her $13,000 bail, hoping she could get help. She stood in court crying, admitting addiction and despair. Instead of prison, she was given 5 years probation, but the world now saw her as a fallen star. Only months later, in January 1992, she was arrested again for forging prescriptions for almost 1,000 Valium pills. This time she spent 30 days in jail. Afterward, she tried rehab, and for a moment, it looked like she might get clean. But the calm did not last. She relapsed. She felt trapped in a cycle that would not let her go. In 1997, desperate for money, she accepted a role in the adult film Different Strokes. It paid $10,000. It was filmed in a single weekend. She regretted it almost immediately. She said she did it because she needed to survive. Fans were shocked. The movie became another symbol of how far she had fallen from the sweet teenager they once watched on screen. Her relationship with Tyler suffered as well. In 1995, when he was only 10, he had to call 911 after she overdosed in a hotel room. The moment scarred him. Their visits were rare because of the custody order, and every time he left, she felt something inside her twist. Addiction had already stolen so much, and now it was stealing her chance to be the mother she wanted to be. Even her 1993 Oprah appearance was painful behind the scenes. She sat on stage denying drug rumors, hoping the world would believe her. Off camera, she reportedly took items meant for guests so she could sell them. She admitted she had battled bulimia and had once dropped to 85 pounds. Her desperation was quiet but constant. By May 1999, she wanted to try one more comeback. She accepted an invitation to the Howard Stern Show on May 7th. The interview lasted around 90 minutes. She hoped for sympathy. Instead, she faced harsh questions, mocking comments, and callers who insulted her. At one point, producer Gary Delabate cut a piece of her hair for a drug test, while she sat frozen in shock. She tried to stay calm, but her voice shook. She said she took only prescribed painkillers after dental surgery. The humiliation, though, settled deep. Hours later, on May 8, 1999, she was found dead in her fiancé's motorhome in Moore, Oklahoma. She had taken Lortab and Valium. The coroner ruled it a suicide. She was 34. A note left behind apologized to Tyler, the boy she loved more than anything but felt she had failed. Her ashes were scattered in the Pacific. The next year, people talked again about the Different Strokes curse. But behind the headlines was a young woman who never escaped the pressure that began when she was still a child. Tyler carried that pain until his own final day. Raised by his grandmother, he struggled with nightmares about his mother's overdose and the cruelty she faced in her last public moments. He battled addiction, too. He entered rehab more than once. But the weight of everything he had lived through stayed with him. On May 6, 2010, at age 25, Tyler died by suicide in Oklahoma. His grave sits near his mother's, a sad echo of the path they both walked. Their story left a mark on the industry. In 2000, a TV movie titled After Different Strokes, When the Laughter Stopped, tried to show the truth behind the fame of Dana, Gary Coleman, and Todd Bridges. Over time, her story resurfaced on TikTok and other places, with people calling for better protection for child actors. They talk about burnout, addiction, mental health, and the way fame can twist a life before it even begins. And year after year, Dana Plato remains a reminder of how fragile young stars can be, and how much they need support long before the cameras ever turn off.